So here I am now 1 week later with the Magicbook from Honor. Now this will also be called the Huawei MateBook D14, I believe, if it is actually released in Europe. Who knows with the current troubles that Huawei are having at the moment. So this has the new Ryzen. It's the Ryzen 5, the 3500U. Maximum turbo is 3.7 gigahertz. My configuration has 8 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. It is in dual channel, and we do have a 512 gigabyte Samsung PM981 SSD, which is really fast. You can see from the speeds here. So you're going to get around 3,500 reads sequential. Really good performance. This is basically the OEM version of the Evo 970 that a lot of people will probably have in desktop PCs and other laptops as well. So the build of this is very good. It's well put together. There's absolutely no flaws that I can find with the build of it. So it's an all alloy laptop. We have a backlit keyboard, so you've got a lower level and a higher level. Keyboard flex is good. It's relatively short to travel on these keycaps. You get about 1.3 millimeters, where a lot of other manufacturers you will find you normally get about 1.5 or 1.6. So a little bit shorter there, but overall typing comfort and using it, no missed keystrokes, no issues like that. It is actually a really good keyboard. Same goes for the touchpad. Not really much to comment on it, that it does support Windows precision drivers. Your gestures are all there. It has an internal hardware left and right mouse buttons within it, of course, and really no problems. The surface of it is plastic, so it's not one of those higher quality glass top ones, but overall it is good. Now the screen goes all the way back, as you can see. This is great. A lot of manufacturers will normally top out about there. That's about the maximum angle we'll get that it will recline back. Now it is an IPS panel, and it's not a wonderful IPS panel, this one here. So it's a BOE panel. I think it's the 84C, if that's just off the top of my head here. Not particularly good. So we have an sRGB of about 64%, Adobe RGB of 47, which is not good for color coding and work like that. The maximum brightness of this 14-inch IPS panel is 250 lux, which is borderline okay. Ideally, I would like to see it much brighter than this. So it'll be fine in indoor conditions, where you're not in super bright lit environments. And even actually with my studio lights on, which are very bright, it's faring just fine, but don't expect to be able to make it out with ease, at least in direct sunlight, because that will be a bit of a problem. So it weighs 1.45 kilos. It's 16 millimeters, the thickness. Now when you take a look at the internals of it, we've only got two components that we can upgrade, the SSD and our wireless card. So it has an Intel 8265. This is a 2x2 antenna setup. Now we have downward firing speakers, and on the top as well, either side of the keyboard, speakers there too. So here's a sample of them. Now you can hear from that while they have a decent amount of volume to them, they are quite flat. They are not rich sounding premium speakers that you're getting with this. Obviously they have to cut corners somewhere with the price of this particular laptop selling for under 600 US. So for ports, on the left hand side we have Type-C. Now this is a USB 3.1 Type-C port, so it's data. In fact, you use this for charging. It's a 65 watt charger that's included in the box, and it will charge it in about 1 hour and 45 minutes. It's very quick with peak rates up to 40 watts that I measured. And then the end of the battery, of course, when you're charging just the last 10%, it slows right down and just really trickle charges it. So that's why it's a little slow there. But it will charge half the battery up to about 50% in only around 35 minutes, which is also really good. If you happen to forget to charge it, you don't have to wait too long there. So we have a USB 3 port and HDMI 2.0A. Now, I thought it originally was HDMI 1.4 in my unboxing because I couldn't get the 60 Hz 4K, but I updated the drivers and then I discovered that yes, actually it was running at 4K 60 Hz, so that is good. And then on the right hand side we have a 3.5mm headphone jack. The output from this is loud. There is no interference over it as well. And another Type A USB 3 port. Both of the ports, the USB ones, will power external hard drives, so there is no power delivery issues from those ports whatsoever. Now there is also a webcam at the top.
And this is the camera, so 720p. It looks grainy. I've got really powerful lights on at the moment, and even then the video still looks a little dark. It's not particularly good. And the audio you're hearing now is coming from the mics, which are either side of the webcam. And yes, there is a white status LED when it's on.
Now we do have a fingerprint reader that's located just away from the keyboard. It works fine, no complaints with it. It's going to log you in about 1 to 2 seconds, so faster than typing a password using Windows Hello. Now moving on to the performance of this laptop. So a lot of people with the unboxing video were asking me, what is the power levels that this is running? So is it running a TDP of 25 watts? Can you tweak it? So at the moment, trying to use Ryzen controller is going to result in this error right here. It's just not working at the moment, so we need to wait for the developer of this application to update it. So our power limit's a 20 watt power limit, between 20 and 25, depending on what setting you've got right there. The temperature limit, this is the stock settings, is 80, and you will actually see it go over that, but I'll get onto the thermals later on. So more benchmarks, a lot of you have been asking for this one. So this is our Cinebench R15 score, so 626 CB. This is marginally faster than the previous model, which gets around 610. It's just because of really that faster turbo that it has that it can get slightly higher, about 100 megahertz I think it is. So really no difference. If you have the previous gen model, no real reason at all whatsoever to be upgrading to this one. So here's our pass mark score. So we get 2,705. Firestrike. Okay, so graphics score is not really that much better than the previous CPU, so the 2500U. Physics score just over 5,000, so 5,090. And here is the Night Raid 1 score. This is 7,884. This is a recently released one from them, a benchmark which is really focused at laptops, that one. And then the Geekbench 4 score with the updated drivers. So it turns out to be around about 20 to 25% slower than the Intel Core i5-8250U. But of course this is more attractive, this laptop, because it is quite a bit cheaper than those laptops. So there's no point me showing Office documents, Excel, spreadsheets and things like that. It's all fast, it's fluid, as you'd expect for this spec of system here with the 8 gigabytes of RAM. Now just bring up the RAM too to point out that they have dedicated 1.1 gigabytes to the system. 1 gigabyte of that is dedicated to our graphics, so it's a shared memory they're using. So unfortunately you're not actually getting that full 8 gigabytes, and we cannot change that. There's no way to change that in the BIOS. There's no settings in there for this whatsoever. It's running at 2.6 gigahertz, oddly enough. I thought it would have been 2.4, but according to Windows here, it is 2.6 gigahertz. It is running in dual channel. I've confirmed that with HW info as well. So in the background, I've got a 4K video running. This is off YouTube. 4K streaming is going to be fine, but I wanted to point out that it will drop a few frames here and there. So you can see 150 dropped, and then suddenly, yes, it's dropping a few more from me going from the window to the full screen. So it's not quite as fluid here, but if I was to use Edge, for example, then it would not be doing that as bad. I have another 4K video clip here, so we'll test out the video performance. This is one of the Jellyfish test files. It's 140 megabit per second, HEVC, 10-bit, and you can see it plays this. Absolutely no problems. And to talk about our battery life, so it's worked out to be better than I originally estimated, and I think it's down to the drivers. So I updated, of course, all to the latest Radeon drivers, all of the drivers I just went through one by one, whatever updates came through as well with their tool here. So they've got something called PC Manager. That's an application that you can run, and it will have an automatic system too. So over-the-air driver updates, as long as they're releasing them, of course, Huawei Honor, if they are not restricted from doing so. So battery life means that you're going to get what I was getting with my mixed use. So this is Chrome, documents, watching videos, getting around 7 to 8 hours with the brightness set at 40%. So this is a good result here. Now onto gaming performance. So this title here is Dirt 3, and I've got it on the high preset. So yes, this can do a little bit of gaming with the Vega 8 graphics, and certainly a lot better than the integrated Intel graphics that we normally get on a lot of the laptops, especially the ones that I review. The performance here is good on the high setting, keeping up to well over actually 60 frames per second. And this is Counter-Strike. So this is 720p a game, which I recommend for every single game. And you see the performance is not amazing. We're just getting about 50 frames per second almost but this is the high settings. So if you lower the settings down to say medium or even lowest, then of course expect an improved frame rate. But I just wanted to test on high at least, where it looks a lot better visually, whether it will be playable. And yes, it is, but of course you want 60 frames per second, which would be then perfect. And this title doesn't really need an introduction. Grand Theft Auto 5. It's on the lowest settings, and yet again, 720p. Now, if you want a better frame rate than what you can see right now, which is getting close to 40, lower the resolution down, 800 times 600, and that will give you an additional 5 to 10 frames per second extra. The main thing is, at least it is playable on this particular hardware. And what about thermal? So yes, it does get hot. You can see the maximum there for CPU, 90.6 degrees Celsius. It doesn't go over that, and that does actually indicate that it does throttle a little bit. So you're going to get some throttling. That's to be expected. Now, when it hits the 90 is only when you're pushing both the GPU and the CPU at the same time. And you'll notice that the drive temperature, this is one thing right here. So that Samsung PM, the 981, does get quite hot in there, up to 105 degrees. I mean, we could start almost cooking sausages on top of it. But that's just the SSD that's getting that hot. The palm rest remains cool at all times. It's around about 25 degrees. Where it does get warm is just above the keyboard on the right-hand side, but only about 32, 33 degrees. This is after gaming for approximately 40 minutes. So we just have the single fan in there, and the fan noise is very good. So under normal loads, just browsing the web, you don't hear the fan normally. If it does come on, it's low and you can hardly even hear it. So right now, gaming, just how does it sound? So it tops out around 46 decibels at full speed, which is very good.
So there we go. That is the Magicbook, also known as the MateBook D or MateBook D14, whatever it's going to be in Europe, of course, if they end up releasing it. So we have a really good build to this, a very nice keyboard to type on. It's backlit as well, a good touchpad. We've got a few ports on here, but we are missing an SD card slot, which I think is a bit of an error, or even a micro SD card slot would be great to have on here. Now for storage upgradability, if you wanted to put a second drive in there, like you can with others, they normally have a, for example, a 2.5-inch slot in there, or even another M.2 slot that could be SATA 3 or even NVMe. No. So that's a little bit of a disappointment that there's no more expandability with this model. Now the battery life is very good. It's about 7 to 8 hours. Make sure you update your drivers, because when I had the original drivers that this came with, I was only getting about 6 to 7 hours. So that is a factor there, and I cycled the battery a few times as well to get that final figure. Charge is really quick too. So what are the weaknesses then of this? So it comes down to the webcam, which is not amazing, and the screen. The screen is the biggest thing for me. It's a very average panel they've gone for. So 250 lux for a matte screen is an okay brightness. So you're going to make it out in your office environments, at home, and just not in direct sunlight. But if you wanted to do color work on it, with that color space, with that color gamut, not wonderful. It's not recommended at all with the screen of this quality. So that's the real weakness there. So performance-wise, it's decent. You can play some gaming titles on there, and you've also got enough, definitely sufficient power for all your office tasks, your general computing. That's what this is aimed at. And the price point too, very good price with this. So all up, it's a very good laptop. And the fan noise as well is another one I wanted to comment on. Really good fan noise on this most of the time. It is very quiet, and even at idle, the fan isn't even on at the moment. Where I can't say the same about other notebooks I've reviewed, that sometimes they just tend to have a fan that'll cycle on and off all the time, or it will just sit there. Not the case with this one. So really good fan noise. So I really do like this one. Thank you so much for watching this review. If you liked it, please give a thumbs up and subscribe for more up and coming reviews from me. Bye for now.